So we got 4 presentations this evening. My name is Raoul Empey. I'm Managing Director of Sustineo. It's a consultancy that does sustainability, energy and climate change. And I'm joined today by Conor Malloy, who will facilitate today's presentation. So he'll be managing the chat function on Zoom. Why should we be joining sustainable energy communities or even setting them up? I know we're very much focused at the moment on flattening the COVID-19 curve, but of course there's a bigger challenge ahead, and that's the climate change challenge. And we're really going to have to focus on this over the next 10 years. We know last year was the warmest year on record. If we take out the effects of El Nino in previous years, climate change seems to be accelerating. It's getting worse. And really what the scientists are telling us is that we have to scale up our efforts 5-fold if we're to mitigate against the worst aspects of climate change. Luckily, we have Ireland's National Energy Authority to hand. That is the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, or SEAI. And their mission is threefold. First of all, it's to use less energy. Energy efficiency comes first. It in itself is a renewable resource, and we can always squeeze further energy efficiency out of projects. Secondly, it's about using clean energy, switching to renewable energy resources. And lastly, it's about innovation. And by joining the sustainable energy communities, hopefully you'll be able to touch on these 3 aspects of SEAI's vision. SEAI does have a number of programs for businesses, the public sector, but we're here today to talk about sustainable energy communities. It's a really catch-all, everything can go in it. As long as there's energy using assets at play, you can combine them into one energy community. And we're contracted by CODEMA, which is Dublin's energy agency, to provide a mentoring service to the counties in the Dublin and Mid-East area. So SEAI has divided the country into 4 regions, and this particular region includes the 4 Dublin local authorities, Meath, Kildare and Wicklow. And each of these 7 local authorities in the Dublin and Mid-East area has a county mentor assigned to it. In South Dublin, we're lucky, we've got more than one. So you've got myself, and these are my details. I'm assisted by Conor Malloy, who is a specialist in transport energy management. And I've also got Romain Poissonnier, who is an energy and carbon analyst. Conor, would you like to say a couple of words about yourself?
Not really. Thank you very much. I suppose, folks, if you're struggling with, I suppose, not really fuel bills at this stage, we're all locked down to the 5 kilometers. But yeah, as Raoul said, we've spent a long number of years helping businesses, helping communities, and my specialist topic is transport. So in addition to the buildings, the houses, the schools, and all the other community aspects, happy to help out with your mobile assets as well if you're struggling with that aspect. But no, I think enough said, Raoul, back to you.
Great, thank you very much, Conor. So there's quite a lot of policy at play, and you can see this sort of accumulation and acceleration of policy. We've got the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. There's the European Green Deal, talking about cutting emissions by 55%. That could even go up. We've got national climate and energy targets, Climate Action Plan of 2019, a new climate amendment bill that is expected to come out shortly that's going to strengthen existing commitments and set net zero emissions as a target in law by 2050. We've got an energy white paper, and then right down at the core of it, we have sustainable energy communities, which is really about enabling citizens like you and me to get involved in this topic, doing tangible projects that really contribute to the climate action agenda. So far, 475 communities have registered to SEAI's Sustainable Energy Community Network, and they have a really diverse variety of interests. We've got a mix of islands, rural and urban locations, a lot of interest in the Renewable Electricity Support Scheme, or RESS, which is currently out for a stakeholder consultation. So that's for any renewable projects under 50 kilowatts. If you want to develop them and hopefully get some benefit back for the grid, that is an interesting stakeholder consultation to get involved with. And of course, energy efficiency first is the policy within the EU. And usually we start with that. They're the low and or no and low cost measures. And then renewable energy probably takes a little bit more capital investment, but that's becoming achievable as we go on, as the costs come down for solar PV and wind. So the Sustainable Energy Community program is founded on 3 simple steps: learn, plan, and do. And it's about getting everyone working together to develop a sustainable energy system for the benefit of your community. And we're going to do this by, as far as possible, becoming energy efficiency, moving to low carbon renewable energy sources if they're feasible, and ultimately adopting smart technology solutions. We've got the rollout of smart meters nationally is already happening. So it's this learn, plan, do cycle, and I'm going to work through the 3 steps of that. But to break it down onto one slide, what does this mean? So for your particular pathway, if we start learning about it, that's what we're here for tonight, to understand what is a sustainable energy community about and how do we develop it. So just to start you on the path, you fill out a simple application form to become a sustainable energy community. Once you've done that, you get assigned a county mentor like myself or Connor, and you get us for 1 day of time, which might be spread over a couple of months, to assist you on your journey and get you to the plan stage. There'll be plenty of regional and national events like tonight. You can learn about specialist topics or general topics like tonight. And then hopefully we get you to the planning stage, where we start to articulate your goals and aspirations for your community. We get you to apply for funding to complete an energy master plan. It sounds quite complicated. It is a technical document, but the good news is that there's 100% funding to produce that document, and you get expert consultants to do it for you. In this planning stage, we would help you appoint an energy master plan consultant. It wouldn't be ourselves. It would be a consultant who is experienced in energy management planning. And we're lucky that the Dublin local authorities have set up a framework where you can pick one of these consultants, and the procurement is already organized for you. The 8th point is about involving you in the energy master planning process. Number 9 is identifying a range of energy saving opportunities. And ultimately, step 10 is having that energy master plan document in place for you to present to your community. It's going to give you a strategic direction as to where to go with your sustainable energy community. It will articulate a baseline of where your energy use is, and it will give you a whole array of opportunities for you to get going on the do stage. And the 3rd and final do stage is about exploring funding opportunities to help implement this energy master plan and getting started on projects. And there's a hyperlink at the bottom there. We can, of course, circulate these slides after today's session. So the benefits of having a sustainable energy community are as follows. First of all, it's about lower energy bills, making homes and community buildings more comfortable, boosting local employment opportunities, enhancing community energy knowledge, and hopefully making your community a leader in sustainable energy. The good news is that it's easy to join up. So let's go through these learn, plan, do steps and just go into them in a little bit more detail. So if you do decide to sign up to the Sustainable Energy Community Programme, you have a good sense of what will be involved along the journey. Firstly, the learn stage. It's just a simple application form that you have to fill out online to join SEC network. It looks a bit like this. There's just 3 pages. The first page asks for your contact details and where your community is based. The second one is going to ask about your community structure and who might be on your steering group or steering committee. What we do ask for a community is that you have more than one person on your steering committee. Otherwise, it's not really a committee. So you need at least 2 people, hopefully a little bit more, to set up a sustainable energy community. And then the last page of the form asks you about your aspirations. What are your areas of interest? What do you want to get involved with on your SEC journey? So once you've filled out that form, you're considered to be a partner in the program. And the next step is the plan stage, where we've got 3 documents we want you to fill out. The first is a competency evaluation that looks at the strengths and weaknesses within your steering committee. And the second is a community charter that articulates your vision for your sustainable energy community. And the third document is the Energy Master Plan funding application. And myself and Connor and Romain are all here to support you along this journey to complete these documents. The first one is quite simple. It's something I will do with you online. If COVID restrictions lift, we will of course visit you in person. That would be our preference, but we're stuck with doing everything online for the time being for health and safety reasons. The competency evaluation produces an output which is a one-page. It produces a kind of spider or radar chart that explains where your strengths lie and maybe where there are areas that you might like a little bit more help on. And it's a good place to start to build the blocks of a successful, sustainable energy community. These are the competencies we consider. First of all, there's core competencies like planning, partnership and engagement, and finance. And then there's also technical competencies like energy efficiency, renewable energy, sustainable transport, and smart energy. The second document is the community charter. This is really a simple one-pager where you get to define your sustainable energy community's overall vision and goals for the future. It's quite a generic document, but it is good that you get to put your stamp on it and articulate why you want to get into this in the first place. And the last document in the planning stage is to complete an energy master plan funding application. This is about 8 pages long, I think, or it could be 16 pages, but we help you fill it out. And it's to apply for the SEAI for funding to complete an energy master plan. And there are different levels of funding depending on the size of your sustainable energy community in energy terms. So we find that most communities we deal with would be at the level 1 or level 2 size. So level 1 is if all the assets within your community add up to an energy spend of no more than 2 million, then SEAI will give you funding up to 10,000 euros to complete an energy master plan. The second level is more at a town or an island scale. So maybe the energy spend is in aggregate up to 20 million, and SEAI will give you 15,000 euros towards your energy master plan. And then the level 3 is if you've got something at county or regional level. So that could, for example, maybe involve South Dublin County Council if it itself wanted to do a community project. And we even have communities at a national scale. So an example of this within South Dublin is Scouting Ireland. They have facilities across the country and they completed an energy master plan for their communities nationwide. So the Energy Master Plan is a document that is completed by consultants. It might have some input from you and your community members, but it would be mainly done by a consultant that's paid for by this SEAI funding. And first of all, it's about identifying local energy projects, reviewing housing stock and sustainable transport and smart energy. It very much articulates a baseline as to where your community is currently at regarding energy. It reviews large buildings, opportunities for industry and employers, renewable energy, and of course, energy efficiency. So once you have your energy master plan in place, you can present that to your community, and then you're at a point where you're ready to do projects. And the first 2 steps, the learn and the plan, that could take you 6 months if you're quick and you get yourself organized. And then we get to the point where we're applying for grant funding to do real projects that will help mitigate against climate change. And it can be a great answer towards climate action if that's your driver. So I'm going to give you an example of one sustainable energy community we're working with, and that's Terenure. They set up in 2013 as part of the I Love Terenure 2020 initiative. And they had quite a lofty goal. It was to reduce the overall energy bill of their community by 3/4, from 12 million down to 3 million euro by 2030. And by 2016, they were doing some quite sizable projects. They secured a 520,000 euro grant from SEAI, which contributed to an overall project value of 1 million. They saved €110,000 annually on their energy costs. And included in this were 22 homes, which got deep upgrades, and 8 community and commercial buildings. There was also Terenure College that benefited from solar photovoltaic to generate electricity on site, and also double glazing throughout the school. And currently they've developed the local energy economy concept. So it's very much about reduce, produce, and local use. And they've got some really interesting concepts in Terenure, like setting up virtual power purchase agreements where maybe their residents could benefit from solar or wind energy generated somewhere else in the country. So I had a slide earlier on that said, why would we do sustainable energy communities? But in my mind, the reasons I'm going to present on this slide are actually the unique selling points to the program. Because you could, of course, choose to go it alone by just doing a home energy upgrade yourself and benefiting from SEAI's homeowner grants. But I think these make the sustainable energy community different. Firstly, you get to learn through experience with your community. This helps you develop trust and confidence with the consultants and the contractors that you might work with. And it also builds capacity and competence amongst your own community. Secondly, you get to do projects. These are real climate change solutions that you get to do in your locality. You become an energy citizen and contribute to making the low carbon transition happen. And with regards to finance, there should be a benefit of aggregating many projects into a single portfolio, such that you have greater purchasing power and potentially you can leverage greater grant contributions and perhaps better interest rates as well with the likes of credit unions. So what are the next steps? After tonight's presentations, I'm hoping that some of you will be motivated to sign up to the Sustainable Energy Community Programme. That's the purpose of today's presentations. There's a hyperlink here on the sign up. I think Rama or Connor might post it in the chat function. And if you're having any difficulty with the online applications, just email rama@sustineo.ie. Again, Connor, if you can post his email address and that link on the chat function, just so people have it there. We'll help you complete the competency assessment and the community charter. We'll also help you complete the Energy Master Plan application funding form. And just to recap on the funding levels, €10,000 for a community up to €2 million in energy spend, €15,000 if your energy spend is up to 20 million, and then it goes on above that for even larger community projects. And once you've got your planning in place and you have a vision for what you want to do, we're ready to do projects. I'd like to thank you for your attention to my presentation, and I'm going to hand over now to Peter O'Dowd of Knocklyon Sustainable Energy Community.
Hello everybody, good evening. I'll just maybe start with a bit of a background for Knocklyon Energy SEC. We started off as a Knocklyon network around the time of the last recession. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly,
okay.
Peter. Thank you.
We started off around the time of the last recession to, I suppose, foster networking in the community to support local businesses and business enterprises, and we're still quite active in that regard. And we are very active on Facebook. So, our SEC was set up around 2017, 2018, and we submitted our Energy Master Plan, I think, sometime in the middle of 2018. We started off with a baseline energy demand analysis for residents in the Knocklyon area, which comprises about 5,200 houses. So we then hired a consultant to carry out an energy assessment on 15 different house types in the area, covering most of the estates in Knocklyon. And these would represent, I suppose, when they're in aggregate, they would represent about 80% of the housing stock in the area. So we got a very good knowledge base of the type of residents and the various BER ratings for those houses and the energy consumption and what I found that quite useful. If you could go maybe to slide number 6 there, Raoul, if that's possible. I'm sorry to jump. Yeah, this was I suppose the result of the deep analysis we got done of the house, this was one of 15 houses we had done. And it gave we'll say the current state of the energy consumption for these properties. And it went through then a various suite of measures that the occupant could pick on, if you want to call it that. And it started off with a starter package, which was very basic. Attic insulation went then for some of the more standard measures, which would obviously cost a bit more, and then the advanced measures, which would be leading to a deep retrofit of the property. And it gave potential cost savings on those various measures. I suppose this is useful information, and some of the figures may be slightly out of date in that with regard to the costs and also maybe some of the grants, but it gives a very good picture of our housing stock, when we take this to the next step and hopefully engage with many more of these people in the community. So we then ran an energy event at the local school, and we had presentations from various exhibits from various companies involved in the energy conservation, including, let's say, insulation contractors and suppliers, double glazed windows, triple glazed windows, heat pumps, solar panels, and whatever. And that was very interesting, and it was very enlightening as well. I'd say we had about 160 people turned out for that. That was sometime in 2018. Then we handed out a questionnaire at that function, and we got responses from, I think it was about 80 people who said they might be interested in taking the thing a step further. So we followed up with these, and it whittled down eventually to five houses, and the local school who participated in that pilot project for that year.
Sorry, we seem to have lost you there, Peter. Are you still?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think to try and speak directly into the mic on.
Okay, maybe I was. Yeah. So we hired a project management company to execute the projects for us at that stage, and this was successfully carried out at the end of 2018, and as I say, 5 houses did not a deep retrofit, but is mostly external wall insulation, heating controls, and obviously other minor measures like, insulation in the attic and that type of stuff. Where would I take it from here?
Do you want me to go back to slide 3?
Yeah, if you go back to the slide, maybe, yeah, where we were, yeah. Yeah, so that were the 5 dwellings, and that was about €100,000 contract value. The local community school then was also involved. SEAI were keen at the time, and probably still are, to have a mix of different sort of elements, including businesses or commercial or institutional, whatever. So the local community school undertook a replacement of their lighting installation with LED light fittings. So that was part of that single project. So the benefit, I suppose, we had with the project management company, were very familiar with I suppose the requirements for SEAI and quality control with the contracting people who carried out the work, and we found they were very good and very thorough in what they did. So that came to a conclusion. We then carried out a feasibility study for the school for the installation of solar panels, and this resulted in the installation of an 11 kilowatt solar panel array in the school. It didn't happen until last August. We had contractual difficulties with the company who was due to set the thing up, but anyway, eventually we got it finished and very successfully last August. So we did run another energy event at the end of 2019, but for like a lot of other people, 2020 hasn't been very good in terms of moving the thing forward. But we're still active and we're in touch with the community, but we haven't been as active this year. One project we have put through is with the school again, because it's easier to do it online, or it's only across the road. We've put in a grant application with SEAI for upgrading of the heating controls in the school. So that's where we are at the moment. So we're pleased where we got to, but I think we need to crank it up again for maybe the end of this year or next year when things open up again. So that's the background. This is the school, the local community school, and we'll see the solar array there in the next slide probably. This, well, fortunately, in one sense, the school pupils entered a competition with Friends of the Earth, and they got a grant for roughly half the cost of this installation. They were one of 5 schools in Ireland to win a grant from Friends of the Earth, who was sort of very decent. They gave us quite a substantial grant for this installation, and say it was finished last August. We plan to do some publicity with this installation, and sort of the pupils are engaged in looking at energy sort of saved over the year and all that. So that's something that would be, you know, good to foster sort of energy saving and energy generation in the community. So that's about it from me, really. I presume other people. So I just concluding, I suppose, then I suppose engaging with young people and through the schools, I think, is a very valuable asset in trying to foster, you know, energy conservation and energy saving. I mean, lower costs aggregated with sort of a number of similar buildings in the community would bring, or should bring, sort of economies of scale with a contractor and local work in the same area. So, and then with the SECs, access to more extensive supports and grants. And the benefits then would be to build knowledge and capacity within the community. I think that at the end of the day, I mean, this effort to reduce energy consumption is down to ourselves, really. It's down to communities and the public. So the more people who can get engaged in it, the better. And it should, I think, maybe this COVID is going to sort of generate interest in keeping things local jobs and what for the community is probably a benefit too to local communities.
Okay,
so that's it.
Thanks so much for the presentation. I've got a question in here from Michael O'Hara. He's asking how much energy are the solar panels producing in the school?
Well, it varies, obviously. Unfortunately, we only got them installed at the end of August, but it's up to a maximum capacity of 11 kilowatts at the, you know, on sort of that's the maximum output with the sun facing directly onto the, well, more or less directly onto the panels. It's a south-facing roof, but it would be around, you know, that's the nominal capacity with maximum output, if you know what I mean, with the sun being at the correct altitude and azimuth.
And I always think with these projects like that there can be a great sort of educational aspect. I mean, have they been using the sort of energy outputs for, you know, training or, you know, science projects or anything like that? Is there any?
No, we had, see, unfortunately, we had sort of planned on setting up a group with the transition year students who would be interested, but because of the COVID, we have a plan to have a number of students, maybe 5 or 10 of the transition year group, downloading data and you know, looking at the output from that. But unfortunately, we haven't been able to put that in place yet. But that's the, you know, we plan to put that in place probably middle end of this year.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Please God, we'll all get the schools back up and running. I think we're all hoping for that.
Yeah, we're all hoping for that, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to thank you very much, Peter. We'll keep you online there because I'm sure other questions may come in from other people.
That's fine, you're very welcome.
I'm going to hand over to Darby Mullen from South Dublin County Council.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Roland. Good evening. Thanks all for attending this webinar on the sustainable energy communities in South Dublin. I just want to thank Gavin, Raoul, Connor, Colima and the SEAI for giving me this opportunity to introduce myself and outline the role that South Dublin County Council will be taking to facilitate and to support the Sustainable Energy Communities programme. So my name is Darby Mullen. I'm a Senior Executive Engineer in South Dublin County Council and I'm part of the Council's Climate Action Team. My title is Climate Action Officer and my role includes supporting South Dublin County Council to achieve its targets on climate action. So we aim to achieve our targets by implementing actions outlined in our own Climate Change Action Plan, which was adopted by the elected members of the Council in May 2019. And our Climate Change Action Plan, this has 130 actions under 5 different headings. It's energy and buildings, transport, flood resilience, nature-based solutions, resource management. And there's also a 6th heading which overarches the plan, that's citizen engagement. And our key targets in the plan are a 33% improvement in energy efficiency by 2020, a 40% reduction in our greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, to make sure that South Dublin is a climate resilient county by reducing the impacts of future climate change related events and actively engage and inform our citizens on climate change. And just on that, the first two targets, they're dynamic. In fact, we've surpassed the first target of a 33% improvement in energy efficiency, and we're working towards a 50% improvement by the year 2030. And the 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, that'll be updated with national legislation from time to time. We're expecting an update coming in the next while. But I'll just move on to the next slide. So we're working on delivering our energy efficiencies and sustainable energy through a number of projects. For example, we're replacing public lighting, the old sodium oxide lanterns with more efficient LED standards. And public lighting is responsible for 44% of the energy consumed by South Dublin County Council. We're also implementing energy monitoring systems to help improve our own efficiencies and reduce energy consumption. We're working on some innovative technologies too, including the development of the Tala district heating scheme, and that takes heat generated by the Amazon data center and uses it to heat public buildings. We're looking for partners as well to get involved on this project. And the project will result in a near zero energy source of heating for our buildings. It's more sustainable than burning fossil fuels. We're also working on more sustainable transport strategies. I might just change the slide there. Next slide, if you can. Thanks. To help link communities and provide viable alternatives to private car ownership. Sustainable transport projects that can become part of an SEC plan, when we're engaging with the Knocklyon group on helping them to deliver some of their transport actions. So from our own side, we're currently working on developing the Cycle South Dublin strategy, developing greenways and pedestrian routes, and putting together a regional electric vehicle charging strategy. So the list of all the actions from our climate change action plan can be viewed on our website, along with other supporting documentation, including our 2019 energy review. But in terms of the SEC program, I was really thrilled when I was asked to get involved in it, in the program in South Dublin. It gives me an opportunity to meet people and the groups with an interest in developing sustainable energy projects. The program, it lends itself to developing networks of like-minded groups who can share knowledge, experience and ideas on energy saving and management. Local authorities across the country, they're probably the best placed organisations to facilitate the rollout of the SEC programme. Our offices and libraries are located within communities, and our elected members are very accessible to the public most of the time. So when I say South Dublin County Council will be supporting and facilitating the SEC programme, what do I mean? Well, I suppose we're here as an initial contact. If a group is considering setting up, we'll be able to advise and provide information and set up meetings with the mentors if you choose to go that route. Sorry, you can move on to the next slide. We'll be providing initial funding to support the development of the energy master plans. That amounts to about 10,000 per plan, up to 15,000. And of course, we'll be recouping that from the SEAI once the paperwork and everything has been approved. Thirdly, we'll be making some funding available through our own Climate Innovation Fund, and that will be to support projects identified in the energy master plans. Projects that would be approved for funding would have to be evaluated and procured in accordance with public spending guidelines. But having seed funding and a viable plan can be good leverage to secure additional funding and support, getting support from other partners. Finally, we'll be there to cheer you on and promote your success in an effort to encourage more communities to get involved in this exciting programme. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Darby. I'm really delighted to hear that the South Dublin County Council is providing this bridge financing for completing an energy master plan. Previously, communities had to come up with the money somehow, and then they could only recoup it from SEAI. So now we've got to a stage where you've really got 100% funding to get you through the learn and plan stages. And it's kind of pretty much at no risk to the community. We just want your engagement and your time. So it's really wonderful news, and thank you very much to South Dublin County Council for that. Now, our last speaker this evening is Fergal, and he's done a number of energy master plans. I think he actually did the one for Knocklyon. Isn't that right, Fergal?
Yeah, that's right.
That's correct,
that was the first one we did. I think it was back, I don't know, was it 2018, Peter?
2018, Fergal, that's correct.
Yeah. So the first one in Knocklyon, and thanks for inviting me to speak this evening, and thanks to Peter. And I've kind of kept in touch with Knocklyon since, to a degree, and I guess last year was the year that never was with COVID, really, for lots of things. But there's still quite a lot of activity going on. So if you want to roll on to the next slide there, Raoul. Yeah, so first off, what's in an energy master plan? I guess, what is it? So these are the main elements. So first, there is a kind of a baseline analysis of how much energy the community is using. So that's really a kind of a statistical analysis, really, based on various data sources, the CSO, SEAI databases, etc., to say, well, look, at this is how much energy is being used at the moment. And then to come up with a kind of an ambition and a target. So earlier on, Raoul mentioned that Terranure had a 75% reduction target. And, many SECs will have like a 30 to or maybe 50% reduction target. And that's to set a kind of a high level ambition and to see really where energy is being used and how it's being used. The next bit then is going into kind of more detail, and I suppose it's more like a bottom-up sort of analysis. It's looking at selected representative buildings in the community, domestic and non-domestic, and doing an audit of those to see in those buildings how is energy being used, what is it being used for, and what are the saving opportunities. Then there is, I don't know if this is in every energy master plan. It's been in some of the ones we've done where you do a kind of a survey, quick surveys, or an online survey to gather attitudes and interest in sustainable energy in the community. And then the kind of really the important bit for going forward then is a register of opportunities. So that's really taking the energy efficiency opportunities identified, particularly in the energy audits, and saying, well, these are specific opportunities for implementing energy saving projects in the community, and to keep a track of those, and then to hopefully kind of foster and nurture those through and get some energy efficiency projects implemented. And that's really the action plan, So, okay, so you do your energy master plan and you see how much energy is being used in the community and you do your energy audits. But the action plan is really then, well, okay, we've done this analysis, and now what are the steps that the community are going to take to, increase awareness, to get people involved, and to get projects done. And then probably the final stage, then, you've identified your projects, and then the final stage is to actually, implement some projects, get some savings, and really kind of identify templates for action for other projects in the community. Okay, next slide. Sorry, Raoul. So very briefly, that's the baseline summary. That's just how many dwellings are in the community, how many houses, what's the total energy spend, what's the average BER, what's the total energy consumption. So you get these kind of high level overview of what's going on in the community, and a split between residential and non-residential. So this, I can't remember where it's from. Actually, it might even be Knocklyon, but it's a heavily residential area. So, the main opportunities are in housing again. Okay, next slide again, please. And this is more like this is a kind of domestic audit. So, you start off, it's based on the building energy rating, or BER assessment method. So you kind of get your starting burr, and then you come up with a series of measures you can take to improve energy efficiency, starting off with, you know, the lower cost measures like heating controls and insulation, and then getting into the more expensive stuff like external wall insulation, and then replacing windows and heat pumps and things like that. So to come up with a sort of a list, a selection or a menu of measures that households can implement to improve energy efficiency. And from those kind of domestic audits, the idea really that they would be sort of representative of typical houses in the area. So albeit that, you know, the audit is of one house, you know, it's applicable, or the main findings of it might be applicable to, you know, tens or hundreds of houses in the area. Okay, next slide, please. And okay, here's a few tips for your energy master plan. So I think a good thing is really to always bear in mind that, you know, one of the biggest challenges really is kind of getting engagement and getting people involved and keeping people involved and getting projects going. So if initially, and I think actually maybe even stepping back a little bit, just if you're setting up an SEC, I think the composition of your committee is kind of important as well. And Raoul mentioned you need at least 2 people. You know, I think ideally you'd need more than 2, and you probably need a mix of different people in it, you know. So you might need some, you know, ideally you might have somebody technical who's sort, you know, who can kind of understand some of the technical energy stuff. You might have somebody very, you know, with a very strong links in the community. So, you know, always, you know, sports clubs or GAA clubs are good examples. You know, they've got a lot of reach into the community. And then there's going to be kind of community centres and you know, not-for-profit organisations in an area. So if you can get a mix of different people involved, then you've got the kind of mix of skills you need and the mix of kind of interest to be able to kind of push it on. And then once you've got that, I think your initial sites for audits should hopefully help you ultimately kind of, you know, build on engagement in the community and to get to actually implement projects that become examples. So for example, you know, an energy audit in a GAA club is good because there's a lot of people in the GAA club, and if you end up doing solar panels in the GAA club, everybody can see them. Like the same thing is in the school in Knocklyon. Getting solar panels in the school creates a huge amount of awareness because a lot of people go into the school, and then everybody's aware that the school did that. So I think getting a few sort of exemplar projects like that is very helpful, and bearing that in mind when you're selecting your sites for an audit is good. And the second point really is the same thing, you know, is continuous engagement and identifying and nurturing projects. And then getting these sort of existing community networks involved in it, being your kind of sports clubs and your not-for-profits and your tidy towns and whatever other organizations are already kind of engaged in the community and kind of, you know, can help get people involved, and then continuously recruiting enthusiastic volunteers. So all that's kind of key, you know, it's really kind of building it up and getting people involved and engaged. Next slide. There is one. Yeah, and then finally, I've said recruitment again, so it's kind of getting people involved always. It's identifying those potential energy efficiency projects, getting the kind of, you know, the exemplar sites in at an early stage, and then hopefully getting some projects done. So there's a couple of examples there of case studies. So sort of a local SEC to us is the Ringsend Irish Town Sustainable Energy Community. And in 2019, we did a communities grant application and did a number of projects. I think the total spend was probably about 250,000, and then a grant of something over 100,000. But that included the GAA club. It included a community cafe that got solar panels on the roof. So kind of again, like the school in Knocklyon, you know, everybody's coming into the community cafe to see the solar panels. We put up a display inside so that it's kind of shows how much energy has been generated by the solar. instantaneously and since they're installed, so you can see and how much CO2 has been saved. And that kind of generates a lot of interest. People ask about it and get involved that way. And then we're following on, as I say, like 2020, we had planned to do some projects, but it's just, you know, I think people had other things on their mind basically. But we've got an application into SEAI this year for Communities Grant again. And we've got, you know, another tranche of community-based projects. Again, I think it's about 250,000 euros with a grant of, you know, over 100,000. And that, you know, that's taken for example, the GAA Club is doing another range of projects, and they're going to announce a strategy to go kind of carbon neutral by 2025 and kind of do rolling projects in this way. And then that again creates kind of more awareness in the community. So I think that's basically it, you know, those are the main elements, and hopefully leading to successful stories in successful sustainable energy communities.
Thank you very much, Virgil. That's really helpful. And I like the way you have pointed out, you know, what are your top tips for setting up a successful sustainable energy community? Because of course, it's all very well doing these planning documents, but you've got to maintain momentum and get people enthusiastic about this. So just to recap on what you advised was, in your steering group, great to have a mix of skills. You might have technical people, you might have communications people, you might have educational people. Anything goes, but a good mix is healthy. I think your second point was to consider energy master planning as a process. So it's a process of continuous engagement where the community and the consultant are working together to identify ways to make it all happen. Thirdly, to have a focal point, like maybe a school or a sports club, to hang your community off really. And lastly, have a process of continuous recruitment. Because you do need a sort of renewable resource of your own energy, pardon the pun, but just to keep the momentum going and everything. So I'm going to let some questions come in, and as they do, I see a couple there. Please put down as many questions as you want, guys, and we'll try and get to them all. We've got a few minutes left. Just to recap on what Darby was talking about, South Dublin County Council, they have 100% upfront funding to complete this energy master plan. I think that's the main message there. And Peter eloquently articulated the benefits of having a sustainable energy community and how he did it with his colleagues. And I always think there's sort of three types of people out there you might be selling the concept to. There's the meanies, the greenies, and the techies. So if you're a meanie, we can help you save money by doing energy efficiency. If you're a greenie, this is a great way to get involved with climate action. And lastly, if you're a techie, some people just like the improved comfort and technology of getting involved with sustainable energy projects.